You never forget the sound of the first gunshot. It doesn't sound like the movies. It's sharper, more real. And when you hear it inside your school, you realize the place where you used to learn has just become the place where you try to survive. My name is Violet, and this is the story of how one spring morning became the day that changed my life forever. The first blast made the lights tremble. For a second, we thought it was a prank, something for senior day. Then came another one, and another. And in that instant, everyone understood. The library filled with screams, chairs crashing, footsteps going nowhere. Someone shouted, "Hide under the tables." I dropped to the floor, and it felt so cold it cut through my skin. The air smelled like dust, metal, and fear. Everything was chaotic. And even then, a small voice inside me kept saying, "This can't be how it ends." Three months earlier, my life was like any other high school girl's. I was 17, had a small group of friends, unfinished homework, and a playlist for prom night. Columbine High School was a normal school. Football players, cheerleaders, band kids, and the ones who didn't quite fit anywhere. I was one of the invisible ones, and no one ever imagines that a place like that could end up making history. There were two boys everyone knew by sight, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, older than me. You'd see them walking down the hallways with their long coats and that look of people who've already given up on everyone else. They weren't popular, but they weren't outcasts either. They always walked together, whispering, disconnected from everything around them. No one had a clue what they were planning. For over a year, they had been preparing an attack meant to be more than just a shooting. Their original plan was to blow up the entire school. They placed 2 propane bombs in the cafeteria, set to go off at lunchtime. They wanted everything to collapse and then shoot the survivors. But the bombs failed to detonate, and that failure changed everything. At 11:19 a.m. on April 20th, 1999, they started shooting. The first sounds came from the parking lot. Those outside never had a chance. Inside, we heard echoes of something no one had ever heard before. Within seconds, hallways turned into chaos. Teachers locking doors, students running, others frozen in confusion. And when the shots reached the library, the world stopped. There's no polite way to describe fear. I'll just say this. The air burned when I tried to breathe. I could hear their boots striking the floor. They laughed. It felt like a game to them. Books fell from shelves, and computer keyboards snapped under bullets. Lauren was near me. I grabbed her hand without looking. I just thought, please, let this end. Then I heard footsteps coming closer. A voice asked, "Do you believe in God?" I didn't know what to say. I answered the only thing I could. Yes. He asked why, and walked away. That single moment became one of the most repeated and misunderstood parts of the story. Over time, the details blurred, names changed, and what was once just a random question in the middle of chaos became a legend. But none of that matters. What matters is that I was still alive. Barely, but alive. I don't know how long it lasted. Maybe minutes, maybe forever. When silence finally came, I didn't know if it was over or just another pause. Police waited more than 40 minutes before entering the building. That was the procedure back then. Wait for backup, secure the perimeter. For us, it was an eternity. At 12:08, both shooters took their own lives. 49 minutes. That's how long it took to change the way an entire country thought about school safety. When I finally heard a police officer calling my name, I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just breathed. Someone grabbed my hand and said, "You're safe now." But those words hurt more than the wounds, because no one ever felt truly safe again after that day. The sky was painfully blue when I walked out. Ambulances, cameras, parents crying. The noise was overwhelming. I counted my breaths, 1, 2, 3, just to remind myself I was still here. I spent weeks in the hospital. I'd been shot 9 times. I survived, but every wound took longer to heal on the inside than on the outside. The body recovers. The mind doesn't so easily. At night, I'd hear footsteps in my dreams. Sometimes the silence was worse than the noise. Then came the facts, the headlines, the experts. Everyone trying to explain what no one really could. Eric Harris was 18. Dylan Klebold, 17. They left behind videos, diaries, and threats posted online. They wanted to be remembered, and they were. Columbine wasn't just a tragedy. It was the beginning of something bigger and darker. Before that day, school shootings were rare, isolated. After Columbine, everything changed. Schools started lockdown drills. Police changed their response protocols. And the phrase, the Columbine effect, became part of the culture. Since then, there have been more than 300 school shootings in the U.S. Virginia Tech in 2007. 32 dead. Sandy Hook in 2012. 20 children and 6 adults. Parkland in 2018. 17 victims. Uvalde in 2022. 19 children and 2 teachers. And many others that barely made the news. Columbine was the first one the world saw live on TV. The start of a chain that, 25 years later, still hasn't broken. Since that day, nothing has ever been the same. Columbine changed what the word school means in America. It stopped being a symbol of safety and became one of preparation for the unthinkable. Metal detectors, security cameras, armed guards, and drills. Run, hide, fight. An entire generation learned how to crawl under desks before learning algebra. They said it was temporary. 25 years later, it's just part of the routine. I grew up watching younger kids practice the same fears I once lived. I saw them on the news, crouched, walking out with hands up, and it hurt to recognize that posture. By 2025, the U.S. had recorded over 400 school shootings since April 20th, 1999. Every time a new one happens, the same debates return. Guns, mental health, social media, security, and every time I hear another school's name on the news, it feels like Columbine is echoing again. For years, people believed that more security would fix everything, but cameras can't see inside a person's mind. I've spoken with other survivors, from other places, other years. We all say the same thing. Fear changes shape, but it never disappears. The drills that teach you how to survive also teach you how to imagine your own ending. No one should learn that in a classroom. Some changes helped. Anonymous tip lines, school counselors, prevention programs, they saved lives, but not enough. Too many schools still lack mental health resources. Too many teachers are exhausted. And getting a rifle at 18 is still too easy. That changes everything. Researchers gave what came after a name, the Columbine effect. That's what they call the phenomenon of those who try to imitate the original attack. Many of them mentioned Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold as idols or models. Some repeated the same date, April 20th, because it's Hitler's birthday, the reason they chose it. Others copied their coats, their weapons, their words. History became a script that too many wanted to reenact. And year after year, while more schools tighten their security, more young people discover that dark legacy online. People sometimes ask if I still believe in God, if I hate those 2 names, if I ever forgave them. I don't have easy answers. What I know is that I'm still here. The sound of that first gunshot never leaves you, but over time, it becomes part of the silence. And that silence, heavy as it is also proof that I'm still alive. Years go by, scars fade, but memory doesn't. I still dream of hallways, tables, flickering lights. And whenever someone says Columbine, I don't just think of the tragedy. I think of the lives that went on, of those who chose to heal, of those who turned pain into purpose. Because surviving wasn't luck, it was resistance. That day lasted less than an hour, but that hour changed an entire nation. And it changed me forever. I'm Violet, and I survived to tell.
So skriv ett to tell, and so did